This video is going to be a film study look at what was a really remarkable performance by Geno Smith during the Seahawks' 42-29 loss to the Detroit Lions on the road on Monday Night Football. I thought he played a very intelligent game, very sharp, made a ton of quick decisions. I won't necessarily quote the stats to you here. Obviously, he threw the ball 56 times. I think there was like 60 dropbacks or 59, something like that. So there's some scrambles in there, plays called back via penalty. I will talk about the stats for the year so far. He does only have 4 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, so people pass judgment on that as they wish. However, a lot is being asked of him, and I think that even more was asked of him in terms of pre-snap processing and post-snap recognition on Monday night against the Lions defense that I've gone on record as saying I think they're pretty obvious about the coverage they're playing many times. Nonetheless, there was 5 or 6 examples during that game of the Lions really switching things up. I actually covered a couple of those in a One Play Wednesday video that I did earlier today about the lateral from JSN to Zach Charbonnet to convert a 3rd and 16 in the second quarter. As an aside, I recognize that this video is about 24 hours too late, premiering or coming out late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So my apologies for that. Incredibly busy, but back to Geno Smith, leading the league, not just in yards, almost 1,200 yards through 4 games, attempts and completions, but the completion percentage is 72%. His landmark season of 2 years ago in 2022, when he came to Seattle, or got the starting job, I should say, in Seattle, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. His completion percentage that year was 69.8, remarkably high. This year, while being asked to do more, I think, of coordination and getting people in the right look, he's completing 72% of his passes. I think they're doing a great job there in Seattle in terms of the offense, adjusting to the difficulties with the offensive line, getting the ball out quickly. I think helped Geno Smith and Seattle's offense on Monday night. We'll get to the film. I do have a significant number of plays queued up here. 20 throws from Geno Smith. This is the first throw of the game, I believe. Just it doesn't get any better than this in terms of the back shoulder fade stuff. I've got 4 examples of back shoulder throws, 3 in this video, excuse me. I think there's 4 overall during the game. When you have a large target like a DK Metcalf, this is almost like cheating. Him and Carlton Davis III went at it. I respect both of those guys, for particularly CD3 for trying to stand up to him. But in the face of what was expected to be difficulty in pass pro, Seattle's offensive line did a better job than I think a lot of people would have expected. And Geno Smith, in my opinion, was getting the looks he thought he was going to see in terms of the pre-snap to post-snap transition and delivering the ball quickly. I thought he was very accurate. Maybe there's 2 throws in this game that are, quote, behind the receivers a little bit. This is still in the first quarter. It's a 3rd and 8, completion to JSN. Second possession, however, because we're late first quarter here, it's the ability to get the ball out quick and understand it, and not just trust his guys with throwing the ball to them, but trust that his guys, in this case DK Metcalf, are going to do their job. Looks like DK's route is to sit down here on a little curl. Again, it's 3rd and 8, but I think the primary role of DK Metcalf on this is to shield the release for JSN such that he can get out into the flats and DK can make contact with a Lions nickel defender, Amik Robertson, if they are in man, which the Lions play a lot of man, and the Seahawks and Geno Smith, I think, took advantage of it early and often on Monday night, even though they only had 7 points in the first half. There's a lot of organic throws here, and what I mean is the previous throw I just illustrated, the completion to JSN on 3rd down. There's a shield, pick, rub nature to it, and the NFL increasingly relies on a lot of those concepts to defeat man coverage, quarters coverage, whatever. There's a lot of organic throws in here too, whereby nothing's being handed or spoon-fed to Geno Smith on some of these throws. It's a backside slant to DK. Yeah, it's the fumble by him. A great credit to Jack Campbell, who's a load. He matches DK's size and strength and explosiveness. He's able to hit him and dislodge the football. Things happen sometimes that are random on a football field, even though I recognize that there are a number of fumbles that DK's had over the year. So you would hope and want to promote him taking better care of the football even while he's trying to get more yards. We're here to evaluate Geno Smith, and I think the throw is on target. And when you compare it to the first throw of the game to DK, you've got the back shoulder fade at 14 to 16 yards, somewhere in that area. Then the quick slant. And I want you to try to take note of that as we go through many of these plays. The wide variety of throws and the locations on the field, he pretty much hit all the zones. And after this play, I'll describe what I mean by the zones. I'll use the all-22 angle for it. He's flushed out of the pocket a little bit here, dipping to his right. I think it's a great play. Let's do the end zone angle one time through, and then we'll come back to the all-22 for the zones discussion. So you've got outside rusher up here, James Houston the fourth. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, underneath in the B-gap rush. Geno recognizes that Aiden Hutchinson was on the B-gap rush, so there's no, quote, edge there. He can get out of here. Brilliant throw because of how quick it was. So he gets out of there to the right, our left-hand side of the screen. And there's no hesitation. As soon as he sees, the ball's already out. As soon as he sees JSN open, he's able to deliver in here quick. Very strong arm, very accurate. Let's talk about the zones real quick. Got a pretty good view of what we're talking about here. So underneath zones, we'll just do first. We would normally separate it into 5 zones underneath. Starting from top to bottom, right to left, 5, 4, with 3 being in the middle of the field, 2, and then 1. The reason we did this for dealing with kids, younger athletes, was it allowed us to call plays with the numbers in a particular order, such that the quarterback's read was given to him left to right or right to left, depending on 34, 53, etc. So moving on here, this is going to be the touchdown to DK Metcalf that's overturned. Yes, there are some things that are created for him in terms of determining the coverage, but every NFL team does that, number one. His quick recognition, ability to get the ball out, and not wasting time. Really, there was no bullshit with what Geno Smith was there to do on Monday night. Him and Jared Goff's games, very different. Goff was 18 of 18. Geno Smith threw the ball 56 times, completed 38 passes. I'm not into the whole, like, who played better, who deserves more credit. Should we discredit Geno for this, discredit Jared Goff for that? I think that's a horseshit mentality. Like, both of these guys competed at an extremely high level, put on a show for us. I don't see why we can't appreciate both of them, and that's what I try to do, remaining impartial and evaluating the game. In any case, off screen to our left, you can see that the linebacker goes out with Kenneth Walker III. So Geno knows that it's man. Briefly looks over here to the left. He's not doing anything other than trying to hold the safety in the middle of the field. He didn't move that safety at all. Wide open. DK got a great release, a win to the outside. I felt like Carlton Davis III was oftentimes overreacting to the initial move by DK Metcalf, but he's a fast twitch, large athlete who runs extremely fast, so I can understand it. Another one was back shoulder throws. This one is to DK down to the bottom side of the screen, and I think that Geno has put this in a location to make it catchable. It's the 4th possession, 3rd and 10 for the Seahawks. Late in the second quarter, it's 21-7 Lions at this point. I thought this was an important moment. You know, whether DK threw it a yard or a yard and a half too wide, whether Geno threw it a yard and a half too wide, whether DK should have been able to get his feet under him a little bit better, make that transition, that inside turn back. I don't know if it even touched his hands. I don't know. I just know it was a big moment for the Seahawks because they were unable to get points there and went into the half down 21-7. Third quarter now, first possession of the third quarter. An easy one, if you ask me. This is going to be completion to DK on a 3rd and 8. Obviously, we're skipping a lot of plays here with 20 passes to go through. I felt like there was going to be people who lost interest anyway. I've maintained that this is a designed pass to DK. There are routes being run down here against the Patriots when they ran this. All 3 of these guys were kind of looping around and blocking. I still think this is the same concept. It's just that because the Lions play so much man, in my opinion, these guys were called to run routes because they perceived that defenders were going to run with them, and essentially you would accomplish the task of blocking by running them off. Underneath route, DK Maybe Geno's a little bit late getting him the football, but he's trying to get him all the way across the field. 3rd and 8, like I said, early third quarter, 10-yard completion to DK. Think about all the zones that have been covered in terms of his completions. I drew it up for you a moment ago. I'm not talking about the deeper zones, which we would divide into thirds, and ABC was our manner of designating them. Still first possession, third quarter. Mesh concept, complete to Fant. I'm not sure if I give you the end zone angle of this one. No, I do not. My apologies. So the running back's going to release to the boundary. You get a mesh by one of the tight ends, and I think that is Bobo. And then Fant, as the outside tight end, is going to sit down in the middle of the field, really on the hash. Ball is on the left hash, however, so he's on the midline. And I think the reason why this ball was thrown on the right shoulder is I think he's trying to keep it away from this defender. But again, I didn't realize that I didn't have the end zone angle queued up here. I mean, mesh concept, kind of ubiquitously used. Some slight variations with running back release and stuff like that. But Geno Smith not only throwing the ball to multiple locations on the field, getting rid of the ball quick, making good reads, but also multiple different concepts, whether it's a man beater, a zone beater, what have you. Clearly a design play here. The Seahawks have used these concepts against the Lions since 2022. And I happen to know that because I watched that game in the offseason that year. It was such an amazing game. I think 48-45 was the final score. I actually almost did like a standalone video in like July on that game as, you know, one of my favorite games to go back and watch. So you got a run fake to the left, and then 89 Barner is going to run the under. They used this twice in the game. The Lions have lost Barner. I think it's Anzalone. They went to this look 4 times in the game by my count, they being the Lions, against this 12 personnel set. And I just did not think that it was helpful at all. So what I mean is Anzalone man on the tight end, Joseph man on that tight end. Well, once the ball is snapped and this tight end steps here to this side, look at Joseph. He's totally eyed up on the tight end. Why? It's man. To the other side, from a Lions perspective, unfortunately for Alex Anzalone, he's read the flow of Walker, so his eyes are not on his man. Basically, he's not matching Barner going across. And I'll show this to you again later. The Seahawks came back to it at an opportune time. I believe it was fourth quarter. It might have been third, so credit to the play caller, the offensive staff. Geno Smith, you know, it's possible that he checked into it on a certain extent. Again, this is early in the third quarter. Touchdown to Barner, I think, was made possible by, I think there was a big defensive pass interference that kind of got the ball down this far. I believe it was the one up the right seam, Carlton Davis III against DK, where, to me, if he doesn't really challenge for the ball, then DK's probably got an opportunity for a touchdown. Third quarter, this is actually their third possession. I believe it's their third possession late in the third quarter, which culminates or ends early in the fourth, but I could be wrong. He escapes. That's Kirby Joseph on the 3rd and 8. I mean, this is sick. Finding JSN in the middle of all that traffic. I gave you the end zone angle first because I think it does a great job of showing you, probably better than I can describe, all the congestion, all the traffic, and all the crap that Geno Smith had to navigate. Escapes the tackle up high. Still got Aiden Hutchinson bearing down on him, which Hutchinson just always seems to be in the quarterback's face or nearby. 2 pump fakes, and then kind of fading back away from Hutchinson. Sticks this throw in here. I thought it was a pretty amazing play. Ends up being an 11-yard gain on a 3rd and 8. Again, like 6 minutes left in the third quarter, so maybe this isn't their final possession of the third quarter, the one that bridged or branched between the third and the fourth quarter. Same play, all 22 angle. The Lions, I do have to say this. My reaction video, I talked about them playing a lot of man, and sometimes you get the all-22 and you realize you were wrong. You watch the broadcast, it's very difficult to tell coverages sometimes. This is actually what I call 2 deep, 4 under. So here's your 2 deep, 1 safety to the top of our screen, 2nd safety down here, 4 under. People have different names for it, so call it whatever you want. The fact is it is a zone defense with 4 underneath, two deep coverage. It's a 3rd and 8. So I do give credit to Aaron Glenn for trying as the game went on to be a little bit more multiple. I felt like early on, particularly first, second quarter, Geno and the offensive staff for the Seahawks had a bead on exactly what the coverage was going to be pre-snap, and then confirmation post-snap for Geno, get rid of the ball quick, and I think that's why we saw the ball out so fast. Same possession after that conversion, beautiful play to Lockett. He kind of jukes, I think it's Jack Campbell, which, shouldn't surprise you. They motion to a bunch. Lockett's coming underneath here, and right around this area here, Campbell's going to front him up from an inside leverage standpoint, and then Lockett just, boom, back to the middle of the field. Campbell really can't handle that suddenness and is beat despite trying to make contact. And what I love about this from a Geno perspective is it's 2nd and 16. They had just, I believe, had a sack for a 6-yard loss. He's also throwing this not from necessarily a clean platform. He's moving up in the pocket. You can see the defensive ends, outside linebackers kind of got upfield, forced him to step up, and delivers this throw while stepping up into the middle of the field. It's all right in front of him, don't get me wrong. Ends up being a 29-yard gain for Lockett. He just processed everything really quickly, if you ask me. Threw accurate balls for pretty much most of the night. This is a 2-point conversion after the 1-yard touchdown run by Kenneth Walker III. Just the accuracy. I don't know. I used to say this sometimes talking about Lamar Jackson. I don't know if you could go out here, like literally walk over there and place the ball in a better spot than what Geno Smith just stuck it over here. They ruled it incomplete. Was DK in bounds? I don't know. I mean, at this point in 2024, who the heck knows what is actually a catch with how many times the NFL Rules Committee has addressed it. From this angle and other angles where they slow it down, it certainly does look closer to him actually having both feet in bounds and control with the football than it did live speed, which they didn't seem like they really even entertained the idea that it actually was a completed pass. We're into the fourth quarter now. And you're going to have multiple incompletions here on the drive where the Lions have gone up 42-27. Seattle had closed to 35-27 at one point, and then Detroit's defense was able to get a stop, score another touchdown offensively, create that separation. Multiple passes down here near the end I feel like are still good throws. I think this one hits JSN in the hands. Maybe Terrion Arnold is turning late and is maybe able to contact his arm. I doubt if he's got a pass defensed here, but it's certainly tight coverage on JSN. Terrion Arnold has drawn a lot of penalties this year, but he's a very talented, quick, and aggressive young corner. It's no surprise that corners struggle early in their rookie year. So in any case, still a nice throw, one of those back shoulder fade situations, slot fade, if you will. Four consecutive incompletions down here as Seattle's trying to get within one score. About 2.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Got an opportunity here. I think Collinsworth covered it extremely well. Lockett is being targeted from the top side, running an under route. And I think it is Aleem McNeil who gets a hand on the football. I would call this like half mesh. You got the running back releasing and then the receiver from that side going underneath on a drag, but you don't have the other drag from the opposite side. An example of sometimes defensive linemen, defensive tackles who don't win on a pass rush are still able to impact the play. I think Geno's got another touchdown there. If that ball is able to get out there to lock it, creates a 2nd and goal from the 3. Again, we're about 2:30 left, 2:25 left in the fourth quarter. Almost an interception. I just don't think Geno sees Alex Anzalone sitting there. If you're a Seahawks fan and you've watched this video this long, first of all, thank you. But second of all, Alex Anzalone is a really solid pass defender. They actually did 2 things with him during this game that was kind of shocking from an inside linebacker standpoint. They rolled him out there at safety one play. I did a One Play Wednesday video on that one that came out later Thursday night. Geno is looking up here to the top side to DK. No surprise. It's man-to-man up there pretty much to the boundary. You do have a safety, I think it's Joseph, one of the Josephs that is, helping out on inside leverage, so Davis knows he's got help to the inside there. And Geno comes back here, even if Anzalone isn't there, let's just say he's not in that window at all. I still feel like the safety's got an opportunity to make contact with JSN as the ball arrives, possibly dislodge it. So one of the few decisions that I would say was not his best on the night when he was asked to make dozens of decisions, pre-snap, post-snap, and the like. Coming back to DK Metcalf, this is one I talked about in the reaction video where I feel like if this role is reversed and you have a defensive back kind of draped all over a wide receiver, if the wide receiver has inside position, I feel like they're going to call that often. Those guys competed, a really fun matchup. I may just put standalone reps from the All-22 on YouTube of DK Metcalf versus Carlton Davis III. Fun matchup. In any case, it's a sprint concept for Geno. He's working to this side of the field on the snap. I didn't realize that Seattle was going to run so much sprint out. There are football people, who don't believe in and like sprint out at all. They get a lot accomplished. There's a time and place for it to be used, oftentimes in the goal or down in the red zone near the goal line. Nothing springs open. Geno tries to get it to DK. You can't blame him. Nearly intercepted, but for a great challenge, if you ask me, by Metcalf. So the fourth down, really weird. And from an offensive standpoint, it's unfortunate for Seattle because they did play. I think they had a great strategy. Going hurry up, lining up in one formation, basically showing the Lions something, having the Lions react to it with whatever their coverage call was, and then oftentimes switching the formation completely and switching the play, seeing if Detroit would check in or out of that particular coverage. Also, the hurry-up nature of this game, have to give credit to the offensive staff for Seattle because I think they wore Detroit's defense out. You can really see that dynamic, bear out over the course of the third quarter, and then the touchdown scored early in the fourth. I think it's 25 plays, 230 yards in the third quarter, 3 touchdown drives, one that finished in the fourth quarter. So from that standpoint, it's very unfortunate that this was the last offensive snap of the game, at least when it was a competitive situation. The Lions did make a weird decision and go for a play-action pass down here, basically hand 2 points to the Seahawks. But I thought Geno Smith was fun to watch. 2 drastically different offenses on Monday night. I do think that Seattle has different gears, and so does Detroit from an offensive standpoint. Detroit can go out there and throw the ball 30, 35 times and be successful from the shotgun. They did it last year. Additional to that, with the running backs and the horses that Seattle has, when everyone's healthy on the offensive line, they can certainly line up under center, run the football with Kenneth Walker III, Zach Charbonnet, with the occasional play-action pass sprinkled in, and be effective. So I don't make large-scale judgments on the Geno Smith versus Jared Goff comparison. I've done film study videos about both of them intentionally because I wanted to put it out there that I think there's a lot of disingenuous analysis of quarterbacks, depending on what team they play for, what their history is, as well as other factors. Both of these guys, Geno Smith and Jared Goff, I think almost share more similarities than differences. Cast aside, Geno Smith's a little older, obviously, never made it to a Super Bowl, at least not yet. Cast aside by at least one franchise, if not more. Was Jared Goff forgotten about when he got to Detroit? It was talked about that he was a, quote, bridge quarterback by people. How was Geno Smith referred to prior to 2022? I know that he did finish and play, I think, 2 really good games in 2021 with Seattle, but I forget which part of the year. As memory serves, it was mid-season time frame, but I could be wrong there. In any case, both of these guys have been disrespected and kind of left as finished products. And in both of their cases, they have improved, become rock solid for their teams at various times, been able to make big throws. And so that's why, for me, it was important to do a film study video on both of these quarterbacks because there were such stark differences in the gameplay on Monday, but there were a lot of similarities with their throws and their accuracy and their ability to make quick decisions and deal with pressure from the pass rush. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section. I will probably have a film study video out about Seattle's defense through 4 games. I would say it will be before Sunday's game against the Giants. Of course, there's 2 games in 4 days for Seattle coming up. Really unfortunate with the number of injuries they have. Hopefully a number of those guys can come back, particularly on the defensive side. I think the defense was obviously shorthanded, just like the Lions defense was as well. They were each missing all-pro caliber players. It was a fun game to watch, fun one to do film study videos on. This one was challenging because of how long I knew that the content was actually going to be. In this case, I think it ended up being 22 throws. So let me know if you enjoyed it. If you thought it was too long, no problem. I try to break down each individual play and point out some patterns or overarching themes as we get further along into the video. I appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this film study look at Geno Smith, who is now leading the league in yards, leading the league in attempts and completions while completing 72% of his passes, I would hold that up as the standard or the way that he should be judged so far in 2024 compared to only having 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. But if you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy my thoughts and the film that I showed, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.